Hey guys, I'm Cameron Bailey.
And I'm Brendan Hart from Hart Gold.
Hey, you're probably used to seeing us starting off many of the real estate videos that we do, marketing all these wonderful houses throughout Christchurch. We're lucky enough to sell in all suburbs of Christchurch and at all price levels really. Yesterday we did 7 auctions, Brendan. We actually had one that sold for $600,000 and we had some that were up over $4 million. So we believe we can bring a lot to the table with relevance. One of the reasons we're doing this market update is there's a lot of real estate hype and talk and propaganda out there. There's reality TV shows going on now, and there's people doing podcasts that maybe sell one house a month. So this is the real deal. We want to give you real information so you can make good decisions as we weave our way through the market in the next few years. What do you reckon, Brendan?
That's right, Cam, and we get a lot of questions daily, weekly, from people who are super smart and really successful in what they do also, but they only do 1 or 2 transactions in real estate, probably in a lifetime really. And we want to share our knowledge and our experience to give everybody the knowledge they need to make good decisions in real estate.
So we'd love some questions as we go through. Just send us a message or call us or text us, and we'll try and build them into these updates as we progress them and evolve from there. So we look forward to seeing you in the next few months. Hey, welcome to my man's room, Brendan. This is where my snooker room, where I play a bit of snooker and have a bit of whiskey and the odd cigar on an occasion. So
I can't wait for the grand opening, Cam.
Don't let the kids come in here. Hey, we're selling a lot of property, mate. We live and feel and breathe it. We're doing 7 days a week, you and I. Each, we're doing probably 16 to 18 open homes a weekend each, Saturdays and Sundays. So we treat real estate like a lifestyle rather than a job. And I think one of the things I love about it is people are always talking to you about it. You go to the gym, people ask what's going on. They want relevant market information. What's your biggest question you're getting from people at the moment?
At the moment, Cam, it is, what's the market like? What's it doing? Are there buyers out there? That's the biggest question, because people think that everything's going backwards, it's crashing. Hey, look, there's a lot of movement in the market, as you and I know, but the big question is, are there buyers? And the answer is, there's lots of buyers, isn't there? Yeah.
I think the media's jumped onto this sort of propaganda statement that it's doom and gloom out there. And the reality is, hey, it's not as good as last year, because last year was one of those busy, freakish markets where everything just sold. And as a real estate agent, you just took orders and they sold. There was, in my opinion, there was an art in extracting the premium.
Yeah,
a lot of people were just getting sold,
Yeah.
but they weren't getting that premium that was out there. And that's the big thing in real estate. The difference with a really good real estate agent, I believe, is the money that they get you.
Yes.
It's not about the commission, it's about the process and the value that they impart on the sale to get you that highest price. The market, as you said, is awesome, I reckon. I mean, I love this market. I've been in real estate for 20 years. And if the market was like this for another 20 years, I'd be a happy man, because
You're a young man for a veteran, aren't you?
Well, I'm only 36, mate.
Look like your early 40s.
Yeah. You go, mate.
I agree. I mean, we're on the coal face. The buyers are there, but they're considered. And they're smart, and they're thinking about the future. The media's telling us that maybe we're going to get to 8, 9, 10% interest rates. So what a smart person thinks about what they can afford going forward. And I suppose that's the difference in the market. They want to buy your house, but they want to buy it for a fair price that's sustainable, and they can have a lifestyle as well. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Hey, look, I don't think it ever changes. I think most people, no matter whether the market's booming or whether it's a pretty low, slow market, they just want to pay market value.
Yeah.
People, no one really wants to overpay. No one really wants to buy it too cheap, although most people do. But the average person just wants to buy it at what it's worth today. And that's why we do so many auctions at the moment, because it brings people to the table as both buyers and sellers, and it shows them what it's worth today. We've done an auction lately with 9 people at the auction.
Yeah.
So
that's tremendous.
It was a $2 million plus house. That just shows you that the buyers are there. I remember GFC crisis. That to me was probably doom and gloom. We used to do 3 or 4 weeks of marketing for an auction then, and maybe have 6 or 8 people through, and then still didn't find a buyer. That's doom and gloom. Yeah,
well, it's funny, when we talk about numbers at auction, you think about, we had 7 auctions yesterday. 2 of them had large volume of buyers there. One had 6 registered. That one you were talking about had 11. That says there's lots of buyers out there, and it is a good market. And you're right, everyone generally just wants to pay fair money. Yeah.
Interest rates, mate. I mean, my take on that is that, hey, at the moment they're heading towards, as you said before, 7 or 8%. I've heard February next year. It's probably going to be true. That's almost twice what it was maybe this time last year. But what we forget probably is that the average is about 7%.
That's right.
So the last couple of years we were in a marketplace that was a freakish market. We were all getting 2 and 3% interest rates.
It is, Cam. And I think memories are short, right? So, we had these beautiful, unheard of interest rates, and then we forget that that's not normal.
Yeah.
We forget that that's actually the outlier. What's normal is, 6, 7, 8% interest rates.
Yeah.
So I think with that, people who are young in the market or just getting into the market, it's a bit harder to accept because you're going from something that was unrealistic to something that's realistic.
Yeah.
We're fortunate enough to be involved in transactions from $500,000 right through to $7-8 million, right? So I suppose we've got a really good take on what's actually happening in all sectors of the market.
Yeah.
So it's a privilege to be in that position, don't you think?
Mate, I think real estate's a privilege. I think we're lucky enough to be involved with people as they sell their properties. With most people, it's the most expensive asset that they own. And we're dealing with them in these times where there's often separations, there's weddings and expanding houses and babies. It's a really exciting time for us as agents to be part of people's lives. We've had a couple of properties lately where people have, had deaths and sicknesses that were revealed through the campaign, and we've got to work through that with them, and it just puts more pressure on the whole situation. So an agent's job in that situation is take the stress away from them, because there's so much information out there that people can sometimes get a bit worried about what's going on in the background and lose focus on just what they're doing selling their house.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But interest rates, they are what they are. You just got to work with them. I think what's more relevant is buying the right property.
Yeah.
One of the things we're seeing at the moment is, last year, the last couple of years, is people that, were buying properties, they were quite prepared to compromise. They were buying busy roads. They weren't worried about construction, things like flow. They didn't mean anything to them. They just queued up and bought them.
Yeah.
A lot of those people, they're getting burnt a little bit in this market. So, things like that are more relevant at the moment, and people are happy to move on to the next house or maybe just pay a little bit of a different price for it.
That's right, Cameron. We've always said in a normal market, if you live on a busy road, your house is worth less than the one that isn't on a busy road, right?
Yeah.
The last few years, I suppose, they equalised and you were getting similar money on a busy road and a non-busy road. But the reality is my house is worth less now than it was last year because it's on a busy road, because buyers are considered, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they'll wait for the right house at the right price. Isn't that right?
I think sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to it. We sold a property only a couple of months ago that they bought last year. The logic around that property was that, and it was on a busy road, the logic was that it should be worth less, and when we went and appraised it, we said, hey, you might be struggling to get your money back, but we actually sold that for $200,000 more than what they paid for it. Yeah. So it was a magical process for them, but it just goes to show that there's always an exception to every rule.
That's right. Yeah, well, we were talking about that yesterday, We were talking about one of the houses that we thought, well, why did this particular buyer buy that house when we showed them this house and they didn't buy it? And it's a bit like art, isn't it? All of us see value in a different way, and that's why we get a different result from houses which you would expect somebody to pay a little bit more for, but they go and pay a little bit more for that one. And that's just a personal preference. But from a buyer's point of view, Cam, I'm actually pretty stoked with this market. How about you?
Yeah, no, I love it. I got a question for you though, mate. What makes a good real estate agent?
What makes a good real estate agent? Well, for me, I think commitment. I think for a good real estate agent, I think knowledge. I think, and I think you've got to be a bit all in, to be fair. I don't think as a real estate agent, we were talking about it, maybe the order taker type style of last year where the market makes you look good. We've been there at the moment. You've really got to know what you're talking about. You've got to have some credibility about you. You've got to know your sales. You've got to understand the value, and I think too you got to know your people. What's important to your vendor. We always talk about price, and everyone talks about price, but you and I know that selling a property is not always about price. Sometimes, if a vendor, the sale is more important than the price. We have a process that maybe looks after the price at the end of the day to get at least market value. But sometimes it's a bit more about people and probably understanding their needs. But as a real estate agent, I think you've got to be committed, you've got to be knowledgeable, and all else. I think I was talking about this with one of our new vendors coming up. I think you've got to work hard. Yeah. How about you? What do you reckon
I
makes
think
for a real estate agent?
I've got a great saying around this. I think the tide's gone out and you can see who's wearing tops.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it's not just real estate, it's actually across the board. You can see it in the building industry, mortgage brokers, all that sort of stuff. You can see who's actually good at what they do. You know, and that's what that saying means, you know. I sort of alluded to the fact the last few years anyone can sell houses, but the art was extracting the premium. This year there's a lot of people out there not selling that many houses, and they're all starting to leave our industry. But this is a wonderful time to be in the industry because you've got to work a little bit harder, you've got to be a little bit better at what you do, but the rewards are still there. And I think that for good people working hard, credibility is always important. Two things important when you're selling a house: obviously get as much money as we possibly can, but also educating people about what the property's worth. Because I find in real estate we go and sit in front of hundreds of people every year and help them sell their houses. And you know, although a lot of people want sort of more than what it's worth, just as many people undervalue their property. You know, and our job is to maximise today's market and you know give people really good advice. And whether the market's going up or down, you know, the important thing is to get a sale because it moves people from one chapter of their life to the next chapter of their life. And there's no point being stuck. You know, like as an agent, if you're stuck, not being able to sell a house, your owners aren't going to thank you for that.
That's right.
So it's about being able to get them sold for a great price and move on to the next thing. But it's really important. You know?
Yeah, I think you knocked it on the head. Advice is important, right? You've got to know. You give the advice, and you've got to know when you've got a fair deal, and you've got to know when you've got a fair offer, and you've got to know when to walk away. I mean, isn't that?
I think one of the things that we do really well as a team, we sell so many properties that we've got a really good. We like barometers of the market. You know, because we've got properties for sale in Sumner and Redcliffe and Rolleston and all around Christchurch, we can give a really good market intelligence on. Hey, maybe what's the rest of the market doing rather than just your sale. Some of the agents out there do one sale a month. It's hard for them to comment on the market really, you know, because there's more to it than price. It's forecasting what's going to be happening in the next few months, what other buyers are around in the marketplace at the moment, so people can make a good decision. Sometimes the best decision is not to sell your house and just wait for the next buyer. You know, we've done that a bit lately,
haven't we?
And hey, maybe this just isn't the buyer. We haven't found them yet. Just move on to the next process and find the buyer. So that sort of advice, although it takes a little bit more time, it'll get you the result further down the track.
We'll do. It's a bit like I'm always banging on about first home buyers, right? And what they should buy. And I think about my own kids, and I think, would I let them buy? Would I want them to buy this or want them to buy that? The units at the moment, you know, clearly that's part of the market that's changed dramatically. Its values have come back. There's a big supply of them, I suppose. And, you know, we're always saying first home buyers should buy like an Ambleside Drive, right? They should buy that because it's got a bit of land, it's bigger than these other ones, and it's pretty much the same price. I mean, you know, that's choices in real estate, isn't it? Like advice, you know, what should you buy as a young first home buyer?
That's one of the things I love about real estate is we're lucky enough to talk to these people. I've had 20 years of selling people's houses now and actually sitting down around the table with
20
them.
20 years, mate.
Yeah, I know. I was young when I started. Straight out of school, 18. And hey, look, I love the fact you can see how people have created wealth. And I've got all these wonderful stories of meeting people. And, you know, one of my favourite stories that I tell quite often, I met these people once and they were really down-to-earth kind of people. They weren't high rollers, big incomes or anything like that. She was a special needs teacher at a school in town, and he was a computer programmer for Jade Software. So, you know, they were just really smart with what they did over the years, and they amassed this wealth of property. And this was going back 10 or 12 years ago now, and it was something like 7 or 10 million worth of property that they'd actually accumulated. And they'd probably been quite tight and quite smart and probably sacrificed quite a lot to get where they were, but it just showed you don't have to be a rock star to build all this property around you. You've just actually got to sacrifice a few things to get in there, and then they actually set the whole family up, you know. And I sold some property for those guys, and there's another story as well, but they actually at one stage they gave all of their children $1 million to invest in property because they believed in it so much and it changed their life so much. They wanted their children to have the funds to put into a house while they were still young.
Yeah.
So they couldn't go off and buy a Lamborghini and a Ferrari, but they could certainly invest the money into a house. And I think that was a wonderful thing for them to do. So we learn all these beautiful stories and we learn how people create wealth and build wealth and property development. And that's the sort of things that we probably want to share with the guys over the next few months. And, because I always think that, there's a great saying, when everyone's sleeping, it's time to eat.
Yeah.
And what that means is that there's a lot of people out there at the moment not making decisions.
Yeah.
And the people that do make decisions, there's opportunities there, and probably the people that are making decisions in the next 2 years going against the grain, they'll probably do really, really well.
Yeah.
I've noticed a lot of people out there starting to hustle a little bit more, a bit more careful what they spend, a bit more careful where they invest their money. But there is more opportunities put in front of us all the time at the moment.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. And we're seeing a few more people coming back into the market, haven't we? So a few people took a break probably in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
And, we'd ring them up, or I would, ring them up and say, I've got this and that, look, I'm not buying. But they're all coming back in, aren't they? So they've seen that the market's, it's plateaued, it's flattened off a little bit. It's going to be a bit lumpy for a while. So that's why when we talk about buyers, even they're coming back into the market.
It's all cyclic, it's boom, bust, boom, bust, boom, bust. If you look at all the real estate graphs, it's all cyclic, and I don't think it's going to be booming, booming for the next few years, but I think it's going to be a steady market. Even if prices are coming back, we can still have a wonderful market. And for most people, they're buying and selling in the same market.
Yeah.
So if your house isn't worth what maybe it was worth last year, you'll go and buy one, and then suddenly it all makes sense.
Yeah.
And I got a call from someone the other day, and we sold their house, and they were really happy with the price, but they're probably not what they would have got last year, and they were well aware of that.
Yeah.
And they went and bought another property, and they rang us up and said, hey, it all makes sense now.
Well.
We've bought well, and the changeover was kind of the same as what we would have got last year.
Yeah.
And that's what people need to get their heads around.
They do. And hey, if you're thinking of putting your house on the market, it's great, isn't it? It's a good time. If you want to move forward, go to the next step, whether you're upgrading, downgrading, it's still all relevant, it still works.
Mate, we sold, what did we have yesterday? 7 auctions.
Yep.
We sold 5 under the hammer.
Yeah. Got an offer on the sixth one.
So we've done 6 of the 7.
Yeah.
Within 24 hours. So that shows that the market's there for the people that are working hard and knowing what they're doing.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Cam. I'm privileged to be the first one in your den.
Yeah.
Look forward to a few games of pool and a few whiskies. Hey, look, we want to keep doing this. Probably a monthly thing, Cam. Between Cam and I, we've got over 30 years of experience in real estate, construction development. We'd love some questions. Cam,
Yeah, well, look, we've sold I think we're up to about $1.3 or $1.4 billion of property that we've sold. So that just doesn't give us knowledge and information about real estate. It actually gives us a lot of life information as well. And, I'm pretty weird.
I'm old, so...
Well, yeah, Brendan's a lot older than me, so we might be able to run a competition to see how old Brendan is. But, I mean, I'm a bit weird. I do things like ice baths, and I love saunas and... all these sort of things like that. I carry crystals with me, so I'm a bit of a hippie deep down, as though you wouldn't think it. So, but all of our team has a little citrine crystal, don't they, Brendan?
They do, yeah. Cam gives us one each time everyone who comes onto the team. Yeah. Talking to our team, we've got a wealth of experience there, and we would love some questions. I just had a thought. I was thinking, Josh, our videographer, he's a bit of a weapon too. We all have our rituals in the morning. I love getting out there and running and riding with a group of guys. You love your gym and your ice baths. Josh is a wicked cyclist. He's done some good stuff over the years as well. So all high performers in this room. If you want to get hold of us, send some questions. Just DM us and we'll have a look at that. Do you like that, Cam? See?
I don't know what DM is, mate. I'm too cold. So, text me, call me, and we'd love to answer some questions because, you guys really make this happen. So, hey, we look forward to seeing you next time. And it's been great seeing you here, Brendan. It is actually about 8:30 in the morning, so it's probably a bit early for you for a whiskey, but, maybe next time we might do this in the afternoon.
Sounds good.